There is no shortage of magnificent destinations in the Basque Country, and today we turn our attention to Bilbao. Here begins a complete guide to the magical Bilbao. To begin with, we'll talk about its location and try to understand what the city is like. Next, we'll present a fairly extensive list of the places you shouldn't miss in the city. We'll look at the best time to visit Bilbao, we'll talk about the time you should spend in the city, we'll share a basic guide to accommodation, we'll talk about the language, we'll turn our attention to a fundamental part of any visit to Bilbao, the gastronomy, and finally, we'll present information on how to get to Bilbao and how to get around the city. Welcome to Bilbao. Hola, ¿qué tal? Hello, welcome to the channel where we want you to be happier traveling throughout the Iberian Peninsula with the help of our videos and of our self-guided walking tours. Bilbao is on the north coast of Spain, west of San Sebastian. The city is wedged between several hills, and the river that runs through it serves to articulate the urban center. Bilbao is the largest city in the Basque Country, although it's not its capital, which is Vitoria-Gasteiz. It is a city of almost 350,000 inhabitants, but if we count its metropolitan area, it is close to 1 million people. Bilbao owes its tourist fame to the Guggenheim Museum, but believe us, the city goes far, far beyond the museum, as we hope you will discover watching this video. Let's take a look at the must-see places in the city in alphabetical order. Occupying the space of a former large wine warehouse built in the early 20th century is Azkuna Zentroa, the Azkuna Center, formerly known as Alhóndiga Bilbao. The abandoned warehouse was restored by the Bilbao City Council and converted into a cultural and leisure center. The building, which occupies an entire block, was emptied and 3 buildings supported by 43 columns were erected inside. The center opened in 2010 and has an exhibition hall, a swimming pool, a gymnasium, an auditorium, and a cinema. Inside, where concrete predominates, the highlights are the 43 columns chosen by French designer Philippe Starck for the place called Atrium of Cultures. Each column symbolizes the diversity of cultures, architectures, wars, and religions that have marked the history of mankind. They use different materials such as marble, stone, ceramic, brick, wood, or bronze. The diversity of the columns give the space a unique and surprising identity and also serves as a calling card for a contemporary city such as Bilbao. Inside the center there is a beer bar, a restaurant and a cafe where they serve delicious coffees. The visit to the interior of the center is free of charge. The center is in the Ensanche district of Bilbao, an area we'll talk about shortly. Our list of recommendations about the city of Bilbao takes us now to the place where the city was born. The old town known as Casco Viejo, Las Siete Calles, or in Basque, Zazpikaleak. Las Siete Calles, the 7 streets, because the original core of the old town is formed by 7 almost parallel streets. At first there were 3 streets, but later in the 15th century the city grew and 4 more streets were added, making a total of 7. They are the following: Calle Somera or Goyenkale, the upper street; Arte Calle or Arte Calle, the middle street; Tenderia or Dendaricale for the small stores in the street; Velosticalle or Velosticale, also known as fishery because of the presence of fishmongers; Carnicería Vieja or Arategui Zaharkalea for being near the first slaughterhouse of Bilbao; Barrencalle or Barrencale, the lower street; and Barrencalle Barrena or Barrencale Barrena, the last to be created, the street behind the lower street. Most of the streets of the Casco Viejo are exclusively for pedestrians, and getting lost in them is a real delight. during the day and also at night. Many of the buildings are carefully illuminated. They are mostly narrow streets, very lively, with surprises around every corner. Beautiful buildings and numerous bars and restaurants that make Casco Viejo a great place to try the local gastronomy, which we will talk about later in the video. In the Casco Viejo, you will also find traditional stores of the city selling everything from typical turrones, nougat, to hats. In addition to the pleasure of strolling through its streets, we return to the map to check the location of 5 highlights of Bilbao's Casco Viejo that we feel you should visit. They are the Cathedral, Plaza Nueva, the Bidebarrieta Library, the Arriaga Theatre, and the Ribera Market. The first highlight is the Cathedral of Santiago, consecrated to the patron saint of Bilbao. It is a Gothic cathedral built between the late 14th and early 15th centuries, with later additions such as the tower and its facade rebuilt in the 19th century. The visit to the interior of the temple is paid. The second highlight is the Plaza Nueva, the new square. It was built in the 19th century in neoclassical style and has a rectangular shape with arches on the sides. It used to have a garden. Today it is a place frequented by tourists and locals who relax on the terraces of the many bars in the square. Because of these bars, it becomes a very busy place in the historic center of Bilbao, rain or shine. At the entrance to the Casco Viejo, next to the river, is one of the most important theatres in Bilbao, the Teatro Arriaga, a neo-Baroque building from the late 19th century. It currently hosts mainly theatre, classical music, and dance performances. It has a capacity for 1,200 spectators. The Bidebarrieta Library is a jewel in the historic centre. It was built to house a cultural society at the end of the 19th century in eclectic style with a combination of architectural styles. It was converted into a library in 1956. The library is open to the public, and the only implicit commitment visitors make when entering the building is to keep quiet and not interfere with the activity of library users. On one side of the neighborhood, next to the river and the Church of San Anton, is the Mercado de la Ribera. If you are like us and like to visit the markets of the cities you visit, you will really enjoy a visit to the Ribera Market. The Mercado de la Ribera is located where the Plaza Mayor, the main square of Bilbao, used to be, an open space that was the center of the city's life. When the Plaza Nueva, which we have just seen, was built, the Plaza Mayor lost its importance and the space was transformed into a market, first improvised, later with fixed structures. The modern market was inaugurated in 1929 and built in rationalist style. It was completely remodeled in 2010 and has several floors. On the first floor, there is a gourmet market that is so popular in Spain, La Ribera Gastro Plaza. There you will find everything from beer, wine, cheese, preserves, sausages, and of course, the famous pinchos that we will talk about later. As happened in Barcelona, the city of Bilbao grew beyond its historic center, and to do so in an orderly fashion, several projects were approved that ended up creating the ensanche, literally the enlargement of the city. The city crossed the river that runs through Bilbao and began to grow on the other side in an urban design with many straight lines, symmetrical and with the presence of the triangular-shaped corners of the blocks typical of Barcelona and which were also adapted by Bilbao. Strolling through the ensanche with its wide avenues is wonderful, and discovering the architectural treasures of its streets from the neo-Mudéjar to modernism, a pleasure. In addition to the architecture, the ensanche is a good place to go shopping or for pinchos. The main axis of the ensanche is the Gran Vía, which connects the Plaza Circular with the Plaza del Sagrado Corazón. As you will see on the map, there are many interesting places in the ensanche of Bilbao. First, we will show you the ones that already have their own section in the video, which are the San Mamés Stadium, the Itzhak Museum, the Guggenheim Museum, the Fine Arts Museum, and the Azcuna Center. And now let's see the ones we are going to mention briefly next. Casa Montero, the Basque Government Health Delegation, the Guridi Building, the Abando Station, the Concordia Station, Albia Gardens, the Chavarri Palace, Euskalduna Palace, Fora Palace of Vizcaya, Doña Casilda Park, Moyua Square, and Campos Elíseos Theatre. Casa Montero, popularly known as Casa Gaudí, is a large residential building reminiscent of the work of Gaudí and other Catalan modernist architects. It was built in 1904 and it is currently declared a historic artistic monument. The local headquarters of the Health Department of the Basque government is a spectacular glass and steel building designed by the architect Juan Coll Barreu. With its glass facade and multiple surfaces, it has become a symbol of modern Bilbao. It cannot be visited inside, but the show is on the outside. The Edificio Guridi building, is a beautiful modernist construction from the early 20th century, with housing for the middle classes that were moving to the Ensanche neighborhood at the time. The building underwent many transformations in later decades. The Estación de Abando Station, also known as Estación del Norte, is the main railroad station in Bilbao, from where trains depart to other parts of Spain. If you travel by train from Madrid or Barcelona to Bilbao, you will arrive at Abando Station. Inside, there is a gigantic stained glass window that represents the traditions and history of the city of Bilbao. In preparation for the arrival of the high-speed train to Bilbao, the station will undergo a major transformation in the coming years. Adjacent to Abando Station, next to the river, is Bilbao's La Concordia Station, where some regional train services operate. Don't miss its splendid modernist facade from the early 20th century. The Jardines de Albia Gardens, are a green space within the Ensanche. It is surrounded by important buildings of the city and the famous Café Iruña, a meeting place that we will talk about in the culinary section. The Palacio Chavarri Palace, is a three-story building from the end of the 19th century in eclectic style, with neo-Flemish elements. Its facade occupies a corner in the most important square of the Ensanche. The Palacio Euskalduna, officially known as Palacio de Congresos y de la Música Euskalduna Jauregia, is a huge auditorium built on the site of the former Euskalduna shipyards. It was inaugurated in 1999 and has an intense cultural program. The Palacio de la Diputación Foral de Vizcaya, the Palace of the Provincial Council of Vizcaya, is a small palace built in 1900 and is currently the seat of the government of the province of Vizcaya. The facade, in which different styles are mixed, is dominated by a large balcony. At the rear, there is a second very modern building that houses the Library of Vizcaya, especially beautiful, illuminated at night. Doña Casilda Iturrizar Park is the lung of Bilbao's Ensanche. It is also known locally as the Parque de los Patos, the Duck Park. It is an English-style garden from the early 20th century that was enlarged in the 21st century, considerably increasing its extension. The Museum of Fine Arts, which we will talk about later, was built inside the park in the 1940s. It is an excellent place to take a leisurely stroll or rest during your visit to Bilbao. In the geographical center of the Ensanche, Plaza Moyua Square, also known as Plaza Elíptica, was built in the mid-20th century and renovated in 1997. In addition to being a very pleasant space with English and French-style gardens, it is a very popular meeting point for locals. The Campos Elíseos Antzoquia Theatre is, together with the Arriaga Theatre, one of the most important in Bilbao. It was inaugurated at the beginning of the 20th century at a time when the city's Ensanche was booming. come to it to contemplate its extraordinary main facade, richly decorated with a horseshoe arch of oriental flavor, decorated with numerous motifs inspired in nature. It is a listed building. The Funicular de Archanda, the Archanda Funicular, is a transport system that is part of Bilbao's public transport network and connects the city from the level of the river to the top of Mount Archanda. The lower station of the funicular is less than a 5-minute walk from the Zubizuri Bridge over the river. The funicular was inaugurated in 1915 and has been renovated and modernized several times. Today it operates with modern cabins. There are departures at regular intervals and the ride up takes 3 minutes. It is beautiful to see the city appear before the eyes as the funicular ascends the hill. From the top station of the funicular at the top of Mount Archanda, you can stroll through a beautiful park with paved paths and splendid views of Bilbao, especially from its viewpoint. Contemplating the city from the top will help you understand the traditional nickname of Bilbao, El Bocho, the hole, for being a small city located at the bottom of the valley, surrounded by hills. It is not difficult to make out the most important landmarks of the city, such as the Casco Viejo, the Guggenheim Museum, and the San Mamés Stadium. In the park, you will also see an interesting sculpture, Huella, Fingerprint, by Basque artist Juan José Novella, a tribute to those who fought to defend democracy during the Spanish Civil War. You can buy a return ticket for the funicular. There are vending machines at the station, but we recommend you to pay with credits loaded on a Barrick card, Bilbao's transport card. The funicular ride will be much cheaper. At the time of recording this video, the round trip costs €4.30. If you pay with a Barrick card, you will spend 64 cents. We will talk about the Barrick card in the part of the video dedicated to transportation in Bilbao. The Itzás Museum is the Maritime Museum of Bilbao, and we wanted to include it in our list of recommendations because the sea is a subject closely related to the history and life of Bilbao, and because it is a modern and very interesting museum. The Itzás Museum opened its doors in 2003 and is located on the site of the former site of the important Euskalduna shipyards. The Euskalduna Palace we mentioned earlier also occupies part of the former location of the shipyards. The aim of the museum is to preserve the maritime history of Bilbao and its region. Itzás means sea in Basque. The museum has an interior and an exterior part. The outdoor part is dominated by a magnificent crane known as the Carola. In the docks of the old shipyard you can see several boats of different types, among them the barge of Athletic, La Gabarra del Athletic, the boat used by the local soccer club to celebrate its achievements. Right now there is a very nice photo exhibition showing how the city proudly celebrates athletics victories. The visit to the exterior of the Itzás Museum is free, so if you are strolling along the river, take the opportunity to see it. To visit the inside of the museum, you will have to buy a ticket. The museum is very interesting and uses all kinds of resources to present the history of the relationship between the river and the sea and the city of Bilbao. There are numerous models of ships from all eras, as well as some life-size vessels. There is talk of economy and industry, but also sport and leisure. The most modern content is related to the port of Bilbao and its importance for the local economy. An ideal visit for a rainy day, for a sunny day, or for those traveling with children. It may seem strange to highlight a transport system as an essential experience in a city, but in the case of Bilbao, the choice of the metro is more than justified. It is a modern system that connects the city of Bilbao and the towns in the metropolitan area. The system is not very large, with only 3 lines. Work on the metro began very late in 1988 and the initial phase was inaugurated in 1995. The system was designed and built by the studio of the famous British architect Sir Norman Foster, who used steel, glass and concrete for the project. In some sections, the metro runs on the surface. The Bilbao Metro has won numerous national and international awards. The entrances to many of the network stations have an unmistakable shape, made of steel and glass. They have become a kind of icon of Bilbao and have been nicknamed by the inhabitants of the city as Fosteritos, in honor of Norman Foster. Later we will talk about an attraction that we will reach using the Bilbao Metro. In the transport section at the end of the video, you will see how to pay for your rides in the metro. Important notice, there are stations, many in the center are like this, where different metro lines circulate on the same platform. You have to check on the screen that the next metro that enters the station is the one you want to take. The Museo de Bellas Artes de Bilbao, the Bilbao Fine Arts Museum, was inaugurated in 1914 and later moved in 1945 to the building it occupies today, inspired by classical museums. The museum is currently in the final phase of a major expansion project commissioned to British architect Norman Foster, and Foster appears in Bilbao again. For this reason, only a small part of the permanent collection can be seen, and also for this reason, admission is free until work is completed, with no known date for completion. Everyone we asked at the museum gave us the same answer: we have no idea when it will be. The museum's permanent collection is extensive, with a special focus on Spanish, Flemish and Dutch painting. It also has many works by Basque artists and collections of ancient and oriental art. If when you visit Bilbao the renovation is not over yet and you are curious to see part of the museum, it won't cost you a penny, so take advantage of it. When the renovation is finished, make time in your schedule for a proper visit to a magnificent art gallery. Few museums in the world can have had as much impact on the city in which they were built as the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, a contemporary art museum by Canadian architect Frank Gehry that opened in 1997. Gehry designed a ship-shaped structure, a tribute to a city closely linked to shipbuilding. When choosing the external cover for the building, he drew inspiration from the feathers and scales of the animal world. More than 30,000 plates of titanium were used to cover the facade, where the curved shape rules. The plates reflect the light differently depending on the time of day and the weather, creating a hypnotic effect. Do not be satisfied with just one visit to the museum. Come back at different times of the day because you will discover a different building. Two large animals are in charge of protecting the museum from the outside. The first is Puppy, a 12-meter-high steel dog covered with natural plants and flowers. It is the work of artist Jeff Koons. At first, Puppy was to remain in the space he occupies on a temporary basis, but he was so well received by the public that it was decided to leave him there permanently. The flowers are changed twice a year. The other animal is Mama, a terrifying spider almost 9 meters tall. Terrifying for those who are terrified of spiders, of course, by the late artist Louise Bourgeois. The work symbolizes the dual nature of motherhood. The mother is both protector and predator. The large size of the animal is surprising and draws visitors to the part of the museum closest to the river. Strolling throughout the Guggenheim is a great way to enjoy Bilbao, discovering angles of the work and enjoying life by the river. But anyone who thinks that the Guggenheim is nothing more than a magnificent wrapping is mistaken. The museum's interior architecture is just as extraordinary, with a fantastic use of space and a unique feeling of walking through a kind of modern temple. Inside the Guggenheim, you will find a permanent collection of contemporary art displayed in large spaces, as well as temporary exhibitions. The monumental works of the recently deceased American sculptor Richard Serra inhabit room 104 of the museum and hold a special fascination. A visit to the Guggenheim is a must first and foremost for the building, which is absolutely breathtaking, but also because the Guggenheim in Bilbao has become a case study. Today we talk about a Bilbao before the Guggenheim and after the Guggenheim, and the term Bilbao effect was coined to talk about the economic and cultural renewal of a city through an innovative architectural project. Not only did the museum bring more tourists to the city, many more. In my youth, I traveled a lot to Bilbao at a time when there were simply no tourists at all in Bilbao. The Guggenheim was the trigger for the revival of a degraded city that ended up turning Bilbao's image around, from a city that no one wanted to visit to one of the most interesting cities in Spain. We have seen mention of this transformation in many travel videos, and in many cases, these mentions are limited to saying that where there used to be a shipyard, there is now a beautiful museum and a park. But no, the transformation was much more profound. It was a transformation in terms of the vision of the city. The museum was the trigger, but the change went far beyond Gary's work. For us, the main consequence of this transformation was the recovery of the pride that the people of Bilbao felt for their city. Today, Bilbao is a pleasant city, planned with its inhabitants in mind and full of interesting places, of which its citizens are proud. An immense achievement. We will return to the Guggenheim in the section dedicated to food in Bilbao. We leave the city of Bilbao to discover a unique place. The next point of interest is located outside the city, continuing along the estuary towards the sea, and joins two towns that are part of Greater Bilbao, Getxo and Portugalete. The Puente Vizcaya, which is the name that appears on the official website of the bridge, Vizcaya Bridge, is better known as the Puente Colgante, Hanging Bridge, and also as the Vizcaya Bridge or Portugalete Bridge. It is an engineering prodigy recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site, along with similar bridges in other parts of the world. The bridge was built between 1887 and 1893 and was the first of its kind in the world. It was built to connect the towns on both sides of the estuary, very popular in the late 19th century, and at the same time free the passage of the large ships built in the shipyards and going out to the sea. You've probably never seen, let alone traveled, across a bridge like this one. It is a suspension bridge with a gondola on which vehicles and pedestrians travel from one side of the Bilbao estuary to the other. The system is so different and entertaining that the temptation to watch the gondola come and go again and again is very great. Crossing the bridge is a lot of fun, but the ride goes by too fast. You can buy tickets at the vending machines located at both ends of the bridge or pay with a Barrick card, a much cheaper ticket. When boarding the bridge, pedestrians stay in the side booths while vehicles occupy the central platform. The bridge is not a tourist attraction, but a means of transportation used daily by local residents, so the traffic of pedestrians and vehicles entering and exiting the bridge is continuous. If you do not suffer from vertigo, you can also cross the bridge from above. You have to pay to go up, and the ticket is much more expensive than to cross inside the gondola. You take the elevator up to the top level, cross the structure many meters above the river, and take the elevator down to the other end of the bridge. The views are spectacular, but are somewhat obstructed by the bridge structure itself. You can stay at the top as long as you wish. You go up one side and down the other. You can go up whichever way you prefer. In addition to the views, the upper area of the bridge is designed as a museum space with panels explaining topics related to the construction and operation of the bridge. The ticket to cross the bridge at the top also includes another ticket to cross the bridge at the bottom, thus completing the two experiences, at the top and at the bottom. In our opinion, the top crossing at the current price of the experience is not essential. It is very easy to get to and from the center of Bilbao to the bridge by metro. To get there, take line 2 and get off at Portugalete. You will cross the bridge on foot, and to return you will take Metro line 1 at Guecho at Areeta station, which will take you back to the center of Bilbao. At the Portugalete metro exit, you will walk less than 10 minutes all downhill to the Basilica of Santa Maria de Portugalete. If it's open, take the opportunity to visit the interior of the church, a Gothic Renaissance temple that began to be built in the 15th century with a tower added later. But the reason we recommend this route is that next to the church there is a viewpoint with fantastic views of the bridge. There is no better place to get an overview of the engineering work. And on the way down to the level of the river, all on foot, you will enjoy a short walk through the center of Portugalete, a town of 45,000 inhabitants with very nice buildings. Soon you will see the bridge. Leaving the bridge, walk 10 minutes to the Areeta subway. It is all flat. Let's see a more detailed map of the route. Exit Portugalete metro, visit the Basilica and the viewpoint, walk to the bridge, cross it and walk to Areeta metro. The Nervión is one of the rivers that cross Bilbao, carrying also the waters of the Ibaizabal River. And the Ría de Bilbao, also known as the Ría del Nervión, is the path that the river travels between the city and the sea, where it empties shortly after the hanging bridge. The estuary is very important for Bilbao as it acts as its main artery, connecting the Old Town with Ensanche and the Guggenheim Museum. In fact, following the estuary between the Ribera Market in the Old Town and the Guggenheim Museum is a very pleasant walk, an activity in which you will see both locals and visitors. On both sides of the estuary there are many places of interest and beautiful buildings, and the estuary itself is used by people for sports. On the way you will pass the Arriaga Theatre, which we talked about in the Old Town section. You will also pass the Casa Consistorial, the city's imposing town hall, a 19th century work of eclectic style with a richly decorated exterior. In front of it is the sculpture Variante Ovoide by the Basque sculptor Jorge Oteiza. The next point of interest is the Zubizuri Bridge, or White Bridge in Basque, an arched bridge that is another symbol of modern Bilbao. It was designed by architect Santiago Calatrava, and like almost all of his works, has not been without controversy. In a city where rain is a regular presence, the architect designed a bridge with a very slippery surface. After numerous falls of citizens, it was decided to place a kind of carpet over the original floor to stop the massacre. Next to the bridge stands Isozaki Atea, Isozaki Gate, a set of very modern buildings designed by Japanese architect Arata Isozaki in collaboration with local architect Iñaki Aurrecochea, who tried to solve a chronic problem of Bilbao, the lack of connection between the estuary and the Ensanche. The Puente de la Salve is the last bridge before reaching the Guggenheim Museum. The Salve was the prayer sung by the sailors when, going up the river, they saw for the first time the Basilica of Begoña, patron saint of the city. That moment took place at this point of the river, hence the current name of the bridge. On the side of the bridge opposite the Guggenheim, there is a free elevator that allows you to go up to the bridge deck where the cars go. Take the elevator on the right, the one closest to the museum. From the top there is a great view of the museum and you will be able to walk down to the Guggenheim. The last point of interest on the estuary that we want to mention is the Iberdrola Tower, which with its 41 floors is the tallest skyscraper in the Basque Country. It was designed by the Argentinian architect Cesar Pelli, who also designed the Petrona Towers in Kuala Lumpur and the Seville Tower. During the summer months, the estuary is full of life. In addition to people strolling or playing sports along the banks, you will see boats of all kinds, jet skis, or even brave people paddle surfing. If you have time, take the opportunity to continue walking beyond the Guggenheim, at least to the Euskalduna Palace and the open part of the Itzas Museum that we talked about before. A unique way to get to know the estuary is on a boat trip. They are offered throughout the year, with more departures during the months of good weather. They depart from a boarding point located in front of the Bilbao City Hall. The tour goes out in the direction of the sea and then returns. In the first comment below the video we will leave links to the activity, which lasts 2 hours. The tour is very enjoyable and allows you to know 2 very different cities. On the one hand, a shining city, contemporary Bilbao. On the other hand, a less beautiful part of Bilbao and its metropolitan area, the part with industries that are still in operation and those that have already been abandoned. In a way, it allows you to build a mental tour of what Bilbao was in the past and what it is now. If you get seasick on the boats, don't worry, they don't go out to the open sea. San Mamés is the name of the stadium of the local soccer club, Athletic Club, popularly known as Athletic de Bilbao, one of the oldest in Spain, founded in 1898. All the big cities in Spain, and also the not so big cities, have one or more soccer teams with passionate followers. We don't usually talk about them when we publish our city guides. We only did so in the case of Madrid and Barcelona because of their relevance. But we felt we couldn't talk about Bilbao without mentioning Athletic, a soccer club and a passion very different from the rest. Athletic is the club of the city, and only players born in the Basque Country or trained in the lower categories of the clubs of the region play in it. Athletic does not sign players from other parts of Spain, much less from abroad. It is the club of the city and plays with local players. This means that Athletic competes on unequal terms with the rest, not to mention the big multimillionaires like Real Madrid or Barcelona. But for Athletic fans, it does not matter. They support their club, their city. If they don't win the Champions League or La Liga, nothing happens. And when they win a title, like the recent Spanish Cup, the city is an indescribable expression of joy and pride. In ITSA's museum, we saw several photos of the celebrations. As a result of this way of understanding soccer, so far from the current soccer business mentality, there is an incredible identification between club and city, like nowhere else in Spain. The player is from the city, lives in the city, and relates to other people from Bilbao. You can support Real Madrid or Barcelona, but in terms of city pride, both clubs mean very little. As we have already pointed out, they are money-driven businesses whose lifeblood is money. Athletic, by the way, is not owned by a millionaire. The owners of Athletic are its members. We are not saying that Athletic is perfect, nothing in professional soccer is, but we wanted to highlight how different the club is. A great place to learn more about the Leones, the Lions, as Athletic players are known, is the spectacular San Mamés Stadium, known also as the Cathedral. The modern stadium was opened in 2013 to replace the old San Mamés. It was built right next to the old stadium. And what a beautiful new stadium it is. Inside the stadium there is a museum that tells the history of Athletic and also allows you to tour the facilities. We have visited several stadiums in Spain and we believe that the Athletic Museum is by far the most interesting we have seen because of the resources used to present the information and because it establishes a very close relationship between the history of the region and the history of the soccer club. The first part of the visit takes place in the Athletic Museum. The history of the club, its players, its city, the trophies won, a very nice recreation of the old San Mamés Stadium. The visit also includes a tour of the home team's locker room, and you will also have the opportunity to see the inside of the stadium from 2 different heights, the grass and the VIP box, and how beautiful the inside of the stadium is as well. You will even have the opportunity to see how the pitch is kept in impeccable condition. The end of the visit is, of course, the club store. Bilbao can be visited all year round. In recent years, as a consequence of climate change, Bilbao is registering more and more extreme weather phenomena, especially very hot days, which used to be a rarity. Always check the forecast before traveling. We have a video on our channel that explains how to do this for Spain. Of course, in the summer months, you can expect firmer and milder weather. But rest assured that rain is a constant presence for many months of the year. In the case of Bilbao, it can rain a lot between October and April, when even sculptures and works of art show people holding umbrellas. It is for a reason. Come prepared for the rain, and if it doesn't fall, good for you. Bilbao is far away and a bit complicated to get to. Our personal opinion is that you should not spend less than 3 nights in the city in order to have 2 full days in Bilbao. There is a lot to see and do, the walks are nice but take time, and there are many museums that take time. You don't want to rush from one place to another. If you are one of those who prefer to take your time to visit the cities and soak up all they have to offer, considering staying 4 full days. Remember that the weather in the region can be unpredictable and you cannot rule out a rainy day during your stay. In Bilbao, there are all kinds of accommodation options. The best areas to stay in the city are the Casco Viejo, the Ensanche and the river banks. If there is a metro or streetcar station nearby, even better. If you have any doubts, ask us and we will comment on the location of your accommodation. But if you choose one of the mentioned areas, it is difficult to go wrong. In Bilbao, as in other cities in the Basque Country, 2 official languages are spoken: Spanish and Euskera, Basque. The vast majority of signs in Bilbao are in both languages, and tourist information in 3 or 4. You do not have to worry, no one expects you to learn one of the most impenetrable languages in Europe, and Spanish will open every door for you, and if not, you will get by with your English. Knowing some basic words such as aupa or kaixo, which mean hello, agur, which is the classic way of saying goodbye, or the always useful eskerrik asko, thank you, is always a good idea. The worldwide fame of Basque cuisine is justified, and in Bilbao you will find many samples of this cuisine, known for its quality and the use of fresh and local ingredients, mainly fish, seafood, meat and vegetables. One of the most recognizable faces of this cuisine are the pinchos. Pinchos are the cultural, not necessarily culinary, equivalent of tapas in other parts of Spain. They are small bites of food, sometimes cold, sometimes hot. They can be served on a piece of bread with the ingredients held on a skewer. There are many elaborate pinchos that are truly beautiful to see. In good or bad weather, the streets and bars of Bilbao are filled with locals and visitors who gather around pinchos and drinks. If you want a short glass of beer, order a zurito. And if you want to try a local flavor, you can have a chacolí, which is a wine made mainly from a white grape variety called Ondarrabi Zuri. If you go to Bilbao, you'll want to visit bars. Go into one bar, try a pincho with a drink, and continue onto another bar. There are many bars in both the Ensanche and the Casco Viejo, and next we'll share some food recommendations and places we like. The first 2 recommendations are next to each other in the Ensanche neighborhood. El Globo Bar is a great classic with a spectacular pincho counter, but the most famous and glorious is their pincho de changurro gratinado. Changurro is what is known in Spanish as centollo, a type of crustacean. On a piece of toasted bread, a white sauce where the spider crab meat is mixed. Then it is put in the oven to grill, and it is really spectacular. Next to El Globo is La Viña del Ensanche. It is a bar with elaborate and freshly prepared pinchos and a higher price level. We recommend the pork cheek tapa. Fantastic. And now let's continue with our recommendations in the Casco Viejo. Bacaicoa is a fairly small bar in the popular Plaza Miguel de Unamuno. The food here is simple and the price is much more affordable than at other addresses. You should order here a special of 4 of the house's classical pinchos, which include 2 pairs of different mushroom pinchos, 2 codfish croquettes, which we found rather bland, and grilled chorizos, prepared right on the spot. If you don't want to spend too much, head to Bacaicoa. Buster is a nice little bar next to the cathedral with a few tables outside for when it's not raining. At Buster they serve a tortilla de patata, the classic Spanish potato omelette, in individual format, made on the spot, which is delicious. Café Bar Bilbao is a simple and traditional bar in Plaza Nueva. It has tables inside and a terrace outside. The pinchos we ordered, which are displayed ready-made at the bar, were very good. We also tried a delicious hot pincho of pork cheeks and a very well-served portion of chistorra, which is a type of chorizo very typical of the region. Finally, La Olla de la Plaza Nueva is a very nice bar with a spectacular pincho counter, both for the food and the containers in which it is presented. We ordered a steak pincho and an artichokes pincho from the hot pinchos menu, both sensational. Next we're going to share 4 suggestions of menús del día set menus that we like in Bilbao. Remember that it is always cheaper to eat in our restaurant than to eat pinchos. Take note of the following restaurants with relatively inexpensive set menus. Ambigu restaurant in the Ensanche, and in the Casco Viejo, Batzoki, Bilbo Zaharra, and Peña Athletic del Casco Viejo. You can see now the dishes we ate in different visits to these restaurants, almost always classic recipes of typical Basque dishes, with a good selection of ingredients. Eating in a restaurant will bring you closer to the Basque cuisine that is part of the regular diet of the inhabitants of the region, because the basis of the local cuisine are not pinchos. Pinchos fulfill a similar function to tapas. They are the glue of social relations. Basques eat vegetables, legumes, meat and fish, and visitors who only eat pinchos end up missing out on a very rich part of the local gastronomy. At a higher price level, the Bistro restaurant at the Guggenheim Museum offers a daily menu that for €29 includes a starter, a main course, a dessert, bread and water. It is a beautiful restaurant with a window overlooking the Bilbao River. The dishes use traditional ingredients of the local cuisine with a very careful presentation and spectacular taste. If it fits your budget, it is a highly recommended restaurant. Finally, don't miss Café Iruña in Bilbao's Ensanche. It is a very peculiar place and a historic meeting point for Basque poets, writers and thinkers. Inside, the tiles and the Hispano-Muslim-inspired decoration stand out. You can reach Bilbao by plane, train or bus, as well as by car. You will see on the map now the location of the airport, the Abando train station and the bus station. Bilbao Airport is located north of the city and receives flights from 40 different destinations from other Spanish airports, European airports, and even airports outside Europe. In addition to cabs, there is a regular bus line from the airport to the city center. At the time of recording the video, the price of a single ticket to travel between the airport and the city was €3. Bilbao can be reached by train. If you are coming from Barcelona or Madrid, you will arrive at Abando station, which we have already talked about in the video. The trains are operated by Renfe. Until the works to bring the high-speed train to the Basque Country are finished, which is still years away, you will make that trip on a conventional train. The routes through La Rioja, when you come from Barcelona, and the Basque Country itself, from both Barcelona and Madrid, are spectacular. If you like to travel slowly and admire beautiful scenery, try reaching Bilbao by train. If you travel between San Sebastian and Bilbao on the Euskotren, you will use the Zazpikaleak station in the Casco Viejo, the old town. It is a very interesting train trip, but only for those who like to travel slowly, as it takes forever. The channel will have a video about the Euskotren. When it is ready, we will put the link in the comment below this video. Or you can get to Bilbao by bus to the Estación Intermodal, a modern bus station located in the basement of a building very close to the San Mamés Stadium and with easy access to the Bilbao Metro and streetcar. The fastest way to travel between San Sebastian and Bilbao is by bus. There are many services throughout the day operated by ALSA, and the journey time is approximately 1 hour and 15 minutes. In Bilbao you will move around mainly walking. You can also use the metro, the transport system we have already talked about in the video. If you are going somewhere outside the city center, you may find the city buses useful. Bilbao city buses are red. You can also get around on Bilbao's modern Tranvía, its streetcar, which has the advantage of running on the surface of the city, allowing you to admire it as you move from one place to another. On the map, you will see now the city's only streetcar line, which takes you to many of Bilbao's sites and can therefore be very convenient. It is worth getting to know the system. The good news is that there is a single transport card that allows you to pay for travel on Bilbao's metro, buses and streetcar, in addition to being able to use it on the Archanda funicular and the suspension bridge. This card is called Barik. If you are going to visit Bilbao, you will probably want to buy a Barik card. It is a card in which you place credits and with which you can pay for your trips on public transport in Bilbao. It costs €3, it is valid for 7 years, and most importantly, it can be used to pay for the trips of several people, so you only need to buy one Barik. You can buy the Barik card at the ticket vending machines in the metro stations, as we show you on the screen now. The process is quite intuitive. Not all machines allow you to buy the Barik card, some are only for loading credits on the card. With Barik, you can travel by metro and you will validate at the entrance and exit of the stations, by streetcar and you will validate your trip at the station before boarding the streetcar, or by bus, the Archanda funicular and the suspension bridge. You will validate the trip when you enter the transport. Upon validation, the screen will show the remaining balance on the card, and if you want to top up your Barik, you can do it at the metro machines. And with transportation, we have reached the end of a video dedicated to a fascinating city, Bilbao. If you are coming to Spain and want to make the most of its cities, take a look at our collection of self-guided walking tours, where we take you around the cities as if you were a local, with the help of detailed instructions, descriptions, and online maps. As always, if you have any questions about Bilbao, take advantage of the commentary box to ask. We will be happy to try to help you. And if you are going to visit Bilbao, you will surely want to visit San Sebastian as well. On the screen, the video we have dedicated to one of the most beautiful cities in Spain, with many tips to make the most of the city. We look forward to seeing you in that video.